Manchester. Satellite weather with Diane Oxbury.
Well, the morning rain has left us. It's taking some time to brighten up, but once it does, I think the temperatures will start to shoot up. The downside is, as we go through this day, there will be some showers breaking out, and into the afternoon, one or two of those could be heavy, and there could be some thunder in there as well. It isn't as warm as yesterday, but it's still going to be fairly pleasant. Top temperature 23 Celsius.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones.
0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Aye, all right. Good. Excellent. I get confused about biggest, smallest, tallest. I know what the words mean. I do. No, I do. But sometimes they're meaningless. For example, it's just been announced, and you heard it in the news, it's just been announced that this month just gone, which I presume to mean June, given that July is actually still with us. But that's okay, it takes them a while to do the sums. But the month just gone, it doesn't really matter which month it is, has recorded a new record low for mortgages granted for house purchase. That's not true. That story's not true. It's not a new record low at all. Because I imagine in 1913 there won't have been many. Hey, come to think of it, 1933. June 1933, how many mortgages for house purchases do you think were granted? Well, let's go to 1953 then. You see, what does it mean, a new record low? Well, it means that they're very low compared to how they were June last year, possibly the year before, possibly even the year before that, I wouldn't like to say. But it doesn't actually tell me anything. I'm not having a go at our reporters, because they've just got the information out of the news system. But it's the way our language is being very, very clumsily used, and how we're being told things which, frankly, are not true. But they sound true. A new record low. No, it's not a new record low. It's quite low. It's diminished in recent years, that's for sure. But is it the lowest it's ever been? Well, we can take as implied in the sentence that we mean since the general principle of getting a mortgage to purchase a home was invented. Well, that'll be about 1600, I think, but let's not get too picky. You know what I mean, though? I just find the whole thing, what does it mean, a new record low? What it means is that everybody should run round going, money penny, the roof's falling in, money penny, the roof's falling in. That's what it means. It means, oh, why don't you panic? Stuff panicking. My house is probably, I've lived in it 10 years, it's probably worth less than it was 3 months ago. But it's not worth less than what I paid for it. It's probably worth more than double what I paid for it. But in the end, that doesn't matter until the day comes to sell it. The whole thing is crackers. Mavis in Little Hulton. How are you doing, Mavis?
Well, I've cooled down a bit.
Oh, good.
It's about the post office.
Right.
No wonder my bills are high. I've been trying to get a number this morning for my local post office. I've looked all through the phone books. It's just impossible. I rang the main centre. They want to know what it was for. I've gone all through the rigmarole. Press this, press this, press this. Go on to this, go on to this, go on to this. I've been on ages. They wanted to know what the complaint was. Why should I complain to someone else when I want to complain to the people that are there? It's not for them. It's not their business. And I think the people at the post office are the only ones that can answer the question. And I'm blazing because they decided after about 20 minutes, if not longer, to tell me that the line is busy. Please ring back when it's time. No wonder my phone is high and the post office, they might as well shut down. I wonder if anybody else has got this complaint against
Well, what is your complaint? You know, as you told us what the complaint is.
Well, I didn't know whether I was doing right or wrong about it.
Well, that's fair enough.
Well, it's just that I sent my daughter a birthday card. She's not got it, and I was just telling my sisters today, and she sent a letter off, and they've not received that either. So it's just 2 letters have gone astray from this post office.
Well, when you say from the post office,
Yeah.
we get confused with words like post office. The post offices are the shops that you go.
No, it's a proper post office, and they was posted in the letterbox inside the post office.
Inside a post office,
Yeah.
right? So you put your letters in there.
Yes.
Well, that would be a complaint for Royal Mail.
Well, I thought probably I prefer to say and tell the post office that I put them in first to see what they've got to say.
Well, for that you would need to go there probably, but there is. I mean, there is an internet site. I don't know whether. No. Well, it doesn't help when you're not. But there is an internet site where if you merely type in your postcode, it will give you the nearest post office to you.
It's not in. They couldn't. I did ring the number up, and they said, "Wait a minute, we'll try and get them." And it's not even in the catalogue for the post offices.
Is it not?
Nope.
Oh, how very bizarre. Well, it's one they don't know about. Maybe that's why your mail's gone astray. Because you put it in a place that doesn't exist. I've just typed in the BBC's postcode, and it offers me. Good Lord. Well, it's a city centre address, I suppose, but I've got one in Ayres Road, 1.6 miles away, one in Salford, in Gerrard Road, one in Eccles Road, one in Stretford Road, one in Mucher Parade in Salford, Newton Street, Manchester, Oldfield Street, Oldfield Road, Salford. There's also...
I've gone all through the directory. There's hundreds.
Yeah.
But not the one for me.
Not the one for you. That's a bit of a beggar, isn't it?
Yep.
Well, you'll have to waddle down there. I was going to say write him a letter, but obviously if you do that, then that might go astray as well.
No, I think I prefer to go personally. I think it's disgusting. Why didn't they tell me at the first start? And they keep me on all this time, and then they decide to tell you, ring back. After all this rigmarole, go through, press this, press that, press... Oh, I give me postcode. They asked for my postcode. I give it 3 times, and it was nothing like what I gave.
No.
I don't know where they're getting it from.
Well, OK, but we have to go back to the original problem. The original problem is that 2 letters have gone astray.
Yeah.
And that's a matter for Royal Mail, rather than the individual post office. Because Royal Mail deliver the mail, and it will be them that you complain to. They'll do sod all, because they...
No, it looks like it.
Well, with a first or second class stamp, they have no way of checking...
No, they were first class.
Well, whichever it is, it doesn't matter. You put it through a slot, and it's not tracked in any way. Now, what they can tell you is if that bag has been stolen, or if you know the bag was stolen on its way to the sorting office. But after that, they haven't got a clue.
Well, there's 2 post boxes, one outside and one inside. And they were both posted inside.
Yeah, but
they were posted last week.
But that mail will be collected by the Royal Mail. They will go there.
Yeah, but they'll have to come into the post office to get it.
Yes, they will, but that is all. That's the only relationship.
Yeah.
They'll come in, they'll open it with their own key, they'll take the stuff and they'll take it away.
But I only thought it was fair to let the post office themselves know that it's gone astray. Has to go and tell somebody else over their heads. I don't like doing that.
All right, well...
You know what I mean?
In the end, it will be them that investigate it. Royal Mail will investigate it. Nobody else can.
Yeah.
But the answer will be nothing, really, because...
Yeah, well, I think the service is a disgrace, and I really mean that. From the bottom of my heart, the post office service is a disgrace.
Well,
we're dealing with phone calls anyway.
Well, I suppose they would say that we don't want phone calls, we want letters. But good on you, Mavis. Thanks for letting us know.
Right, thanks.
Mavis thinks the post offices might as well shut because they're a waste of time.
You don't have to love rugby league to love Jack Dearden and Trevor Hunt.
We only wish they were here. I know it. It sounds like a travel programme. What was she called on the travel Judith Chalmers, who didn't wear any underwear when she was on.
Oh, Jack, no.
Speaking of things like that, and did you read about Valerie Singleton? Now we know.
I don't want to know anymore.
Now we know why they called it Blue Peter.
Jack Dean and Trevor Hunt.
Jack, seriously, do you think Hornets would have gotten away with the same ruling that Hull had?
I mean, I'll say it for Jack. The answer's quite simple.
Hang on, I'm going to speak for myself, thanks.
And all too often.
The Rugby League Hour with Jack Dearden and Trevor Hunt.
That's the whole truth and nothing but the truth.
Thursday evening from 7.
At BBC Radio Manchester.
Kevin says, phone the local post office. You must be joking. They lost, this is Raw Mail I suppose, they lost a special delivery envelope I handed in a month ago. They've now lost the claim form I handed in. Usually I receive excellent service, but not this time, says Kevin. Interestingly, they lost two, both related to the same inquiry. Beryl in Little Lever. Hiya, Beryl.
Hey, I spoke to you a few weeks ago about this, my driveway. I was having a problem with this builder who's made a mess of it. Well, tarmac. Hello?
Right, I'm listening, yeah.
Right. So that's ongoing, but I've had experience with not the actual local post office. They're very good. But what has happened, I've been sending recorded delivery letters to this man, and there's been no record. When you phone up, when they give you the number, the reference number on the back of your recorded delivery ticket, it's like, not been registered, try again later. So I've had several of this that we've even been on the web. So eventually they told me to get through to the complaints department, customer service, Royal Mail. I got onto them, and they're saying that the letter I wrote to them, complaining about this not being signed for, he'd been shoved through his letterbox, not signed for, and they said that my letter, which was sent on the 11th of July to them, their head office in Plymouth, wouldn't be open for another 10 days because they're that far behind. But if this lady wants the number, it's
No, don't give me a phone number.
Right.
We don't let people give phone numbers out
it's just
because.
for the Royal Mail, you see.
Yes, I know, but if you get one digit wrong, hundreds of people then ring the wrong number. And,
I see. I just thought if
no, I fully understand.
If she can't find the number, I've got it.
Well,
If
okay.
she wants to phone me, and I'll give it her.
Well, we might do that. We might put her in touch with you.
Because I understand about all this when they say, press this, press that. Press
It's a nightmare. It's a nightmare.
I have actually got the direct line to favour that
Right,
problem.
well, that sounds like the kind of number we should be giving out, but frankly...
Well, if she wants to phone me, I'll give it to her.
All right, well, we'll maybe organise that. We'll maybe get back onto Mavis and give her your number, and then you can give her that number if you
I will do. All right, then.
All right, good on you.
Alan.
Yeah, that's interesting, isn't it? You send a recorded delivery letter, and they try a couple of times, and when eventually they think, well, we're never going to get an answer here, they just shove it through the letterbox, which is a fat lot of use in one respect. However, when you're wanting to prove that a thing has been delivered, all right, they've not got a signature for it, but if you can get the post office to say, well, we did deliver it, we put it through the letterbox, then I suppose that's recording of a kind, so let us not be too critical of them. Neil in Bebington says, Beswick recharges your mental batteries. Isn't it more the case that Beswick discharges people's mental batteries? A bit like that device I use for emptying the NiCads batteries I have. Nickel cadmium. Why do you empty them? What are they full of? How very... Actually, I don't know. Why do you empty batteries? You just top it up a bit, don't you, when it needs it? I don't understand. It's all too difficult. Isn't it, though? Bam. 0161 228 2255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And, of course, you can text on 07786 206 951. Bobbing up down. Bob says, blank passports for sale. Very good, yes. Yeah, they're going to be flying off the shelves, those, aren't they? That's really good fun. Yeah, it must have been scary, though, for the people. Oh, a little correction, possibly, or further information. We were talking about what's it called? The Midlothian question or something yesterday about the devolution of parliaments and all the rest of it. Anyway, we were. And I said that I didn't know whether any SDP members of Parliament, members of the Scottish Parliament, were also members of the British Parliament, and the answer is they are. Well, one is at least. Alex Salmond, the leader of the Scottish National Party, is a member of both the House of Commons and of the... He's also a member of the Scottish Parliament, an MSP, so he's both MP and MSP. So a number of people sent me that information, and me being me, like to bring you up to date with my mistakes. Well, it's a busy job. 0161 228 2255. You can talk about anything under the sun. We really don't mind. You pick the subjects and we sort of wriggle around it for a moment or two. 12:20, BBC Radio Manchester News headlines with Faye Rusco.
Police are investigating the theft of 3,000 blank passports and visa documents from a van travelling from Oldham to London. The government's given final approval for the Alderley Edge bypass this morning. It'll cost £51 million. And a 13-year-old girl's in a critical condition after she was hit by a minibus in Wigan. She's in hospital with serious head and back injuries. Manchester's weather, sunny spells, but the chance of thunderstorms later. Highs of 22 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester 2020 traffic.
Well, traffic is flowing freely on the M60 and M62 at the moment. Just having a look at our cameras on the M60 around Junction 1 at Stockport, and everything looks okay, no major delays to tell you about. If you're in Cheshire, though, do just be aware in Monks Heath, we've still got the traffic lights out on the A34 Congleton Road. Now, it's the lights at the main crossroads, so it is quite busy. Do approach with care. Finally, if you're taking a train London-bound today, expect delays of up to 1 hour following a signalling problem at Rugby. If you spot anything else, do give me a call on 0161 244 4951. I'm Chris Uni.
You're never more than 20 minutes away from the latest traffic through the day.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Nicholas in Withenshaw. Hiya.
Hi, Alan. How are you?
I'm very well, thank you.
I would like to have your opinion, or anybody else knows about it. Friend of mine, he does lorry. He's a lorry driver, and he comes in the country about for 20 years now almost. And last week he faced a very difficult situation for him. They stopped him for control. Of course, they do controls. That's right.
Stopped him for what?
For control.
Control. Sorry,
Yeah.
Go on. My apologies. Go on.
Yeah, you are welcome, Alan. And unfortunately for him, they found behind 7 people from, I don't know what nationality really they were, but they find 7 of them. And
in his vehicle?
In his vehicle,
yeah.
Yes. And they gave a letter to him, and they said that they're going to fine him about £2,000 for each person. And he doesn't know what to do, what is the best for him to do. You know, it's very difficult. If you could help, please, or anybody else, what is the best for him?
The best thing for him to do, really, is to get a lawyer.
Yeah, he got a lawyer.
Well, that's what he needs. The problem, Nicholas, is this.
Yeah.
The authorities, 5 or 6 years ago, it may have been a little longer, but it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
The authorities decided that they would put the responsibility for loads, for want of a better term, on the driver. Because frankly, the driver is the only person who can control it. And so a driver has an obligation to make sure that his load has not been tampered with when coming into the country. And if when he comes into the country he's found to have contraband of any kind, but human contraband is probably about the worst they look for, he's considered to be, prima facie, at least on the face of it, an offender. And so they say, by doing that, what they're trying to do is lorry drivers have it made clear to them that if you're stopped and there are smuggled people in your vehicle, then you're to blame. Because you have the job of checking it. It's like when you go to the airport to fly anywhere these days, they ask you, have you packed your case yourself?
Yes.
If you say, yes, I have, and then you're found to have drugs or weapons or anything else in it, you are to blame because you've accepted responsibility for what's in the case. If you say no, they won't let you on the plane until the case has been searched.
I am agree with that.
Well, it's the same with illegal immigration.
If you allowed me, just
Go on, please.
to give you a picture about it. Did you ever drive with a lorry?
Yes.
Did you ever drive with a lorry?
I drove a lorry, yes.
Did you?
Yeah, I wasn't a full-time regular driver, but I drove lorries on and off for quite a while. I never drove internationally except military lorries, and they're rather different. Military ones are different.
That is a big difference, Alan. If we face the situation as a picture, and everybody can have different opinion, but what I try to say is that you can't have control even in the lorry, because if they want to smuggle, they go in the places that you can't find them. You need to have that especially equipment, the one is take the beat of the heart or the breathing as they have the control. People. If you have a big lorry, they
yes, but a big lorry, the biggest lorry on earth is only 40 foot long.
Yeah.
And 12 foot high.
You can't.
And
if
10
they
foot
go in the
wide.
boxes, you can't open any box.
Well, you can't open every box, but we have to, the authorities have to find a way of stopping people. If we say the lorry driver's not to blame, then when the lorry arrives at the docks at passport control and there are found to be 7 people in it, and the lorry says, I never knew, then who else would we blame?
Excuse me. Is the lorry driver to blame?
The lorry driver will be fine.
Alan, if we see the situation as it is a lot of lorry drivers, they lost houses, they lost business, and they are still in jail because of this situation.
Indeed.
What I try to say kindly to you, because I respect your opinion. I hear you every morning. For that I gave a ring to you. I could call anybody else, but you are the only one. Probably they call you different names and they say go on you, but at the end of the day, everybody respects that you know what you say.
But Nicholas, I mean, thank you for all of that. But imagine the situation. You don't have to. It's happened. A lorry arrives at passport control from abroad.
Yeah.
And they decide to search it, as they do randomly from time to time, and they find 7 human beings on there who ought not to be there.
Yeah.
Now, if we don't say to the lorry driver, you're to blame, who else do we blame? Who else do we blame?
Okay, let's go there to something, to give you another picture now.
Okay.
There are 2 controls in Calais. The one is the French one.
Yeah.
And in 50 meters, or...
You then hit the British one, yeah. We do our passport control for lorry drivers abroad now.
So
yes.
You know the picture.
I do,
about
yes.
it. Thank you very much, Alan.
Yeah.
If they catch you, the French one, they ask you where you stopped. He stopped to Hollande in Belgium. And he spent few hours, because the law, the drivers, they have to stop so long time and all this. So, if they catch you in the French one, they take the people, they say to you where you stop, and you're okay. Nothing at all.
Yes, but Nicholas, there is a difference here. If you are smuggling people out of France,
no,
France doesn't care.
Listen, no, if you are. You don't know.
Well, okay, we don't know if you are.
To put it like that.
But what we know is that the people in the lorry are attempting to avert passport control.
Yeah.
Now, France doesn't care.
I do know that.
France doesn't care.
Yeah, because they want to get rid of
France doesn't care if 20 people leave their country illicitly.
I know that.
However, Britain does care if 20 people come in. So the reason the French are not that bothered is because at that point they're leaving the country.
I do appreciate and
so
I do
the offence to the French is not that great, but the offence to the British, if they get in, is substantial.
Listen to me, Alan. I know all about it because the main point to them is to come to the country. Because England...
Well, let me ask you this, Nick.
Please.
I've got your story, Nicholas. What I'm interested in is do you think there is another way of discouraging lorry drivers knowingly? Now, I know you say your friend didn't know, and I accept that, but do you think there is another way of making lorry drivers be very, very careful about what's on their lorry?
Okay, that's true. That's true. Excuse me, let's go to another case now.
Well, no, we've not got time to go to another case, Nicholas.
No.
We're dealing with the principle. But Nicholas...
Alan, you are a lorry driver, and you go in
Well,
the
I
company.
drove a lorry for a while. Go on.
Yes, and you go in a company, and you take tomatoes.
Yeah.
They say tomatoes outside.
Yeah.
And inside is drugs.
Yeah.
That is your fault.
It may well be. Not
Why? You have to open
the answer, Nicholas. The answer, Nicholas, is it may well, on that occasion, not be a straightforward case. But hiding drugs in tomatoes is a lot easier than hiding human beings, 7 of the beggars, in a lorry. Back to the advice, Nicholas. Your friend needs a lawyer. You say he's got one. He's going to need a good one. Otherwise, he's going to have a very big fine to pay. It's just gone 12:30 on BBC Radio Manchester. Ken in Radcliffe. Hiya, Ken.
Hello, Alan. I took out an insurance policy for the house and contents and building, you name it, over the phone. And with the earthquake, we got 2 cracks down the wall. So I got in touch with the insurance company. They sent out dozens of people. I worked it out for photographing it, and I said, I wish I'd have known you were photographing it. I'd have put my best suit on. So, I said, look, I don't want permanent scaffolding round. I said, is there any chance of putting a tower? And this is to this lady, a loss adjuster. And she said, yeah. I said, the reason is, I'm not being awkward. I said, but my wife's had 2 brain hemorrhages, her health, and she can't balance out. What's wrong? Anyway, cut a long story short, we made the builders got in touch, made an appointment for a Friday, never turned up. And then a few days later, they phoned me and said, oh, we forgot. Oh, I said, is that right? You forgot? It was only when it came up on the computer. I said, oh, computer trouble. Anyway, we made another appointment, came round, and the lad said, we can't do the job. I said, why not? We've not got a tower. I said, but I've told everybody I want a tower, and you need a tower unless it's permanent scaffolding. So anyway, said, we can't do it. We ain't got any of that. So he got in touch with his gaffer, which was a subcontractor. He gets in touch with me. He said, is it all right if we come round the following day and do the job? So I said, yeah, okay. I said, I must admit, I was thinking of phoning the insurance company and telling the builders, the main builders, to go away. Or in fact, we'll get somebody else. So anyway, I said, all right. So they came round, did the job, really pleased, and I'd recommend them, these subcontractors, really did a splendid job. And then a day later, I get a letter off the builder for £100 access. I said, what are you on about? So I went through my documents, and there it is at the bottom. I had £100 access to pay on my insurance policy, which they never told me over the phone. I got this, I get that, I get the other, and if there's one missing in a pack of 3, I'm covered, and all this sort of thing. So I said, what right have you got? You're a builder. You've no right to claim expenses. I took a contract out with an insurance company.
Well, unfortunately, let me tell you in short shrift, you're wrong.
Well, this is why I phoned you. This is what I wanted to know.
The builder, I'm going to invent numbers for convenience, Ken.
Yeah.
But let us assume that the bill for mending your house is £1,000. He will only get 900 of that off the insurance company. The other 100 comes from you, because that's your excess.
Yep, I understand that.
The only other way of doing it, and this is not the way they choose to do it, the only way of doing it is the insurance company would have to get £100 off you, and then would pay 1,000 to the builder. So the builder, knowing that he will definitely get paid by the insurance company because they cough up, but he doesn't know that you'll pay him after the job, so he says to you, I want the 100 cash, the 100 excess up front. That's fairly standard practice. It may suck, it may be dreadful, but it's fairly standard practice.
Well, I didn't know that. That's why I wanted to...
All right, well, that's generally how it works.
But you see, I've told this building company they could set me a quote for 100 quid. It'd be the small claims quote. I said, I'm not paying you. I never knew you existed. My contract was with the insurance company, and I want to know what the insurance company, what right have they got to give my details?
Well, it's going to be very, very difficult for the builder to mend your house unless he knows where it is.
Yeah, but he shouldn't know anything about what I've agreed to on the insurance company.
It's hardly a state secret. But if you insist, I feel sure that your insurance company will say, all right, don't worry, you pay the 100 quid to us and we'll instruct the builder.
Well, I've said that to them.
And what did the insurance company say?
They've not been back to me yet after the
OK, well, wait and see. But all this time, I suspect that your building's still got cracks in its wall.
Oh, no, it's all been done.
Oh, it's been done?
Yeah.
Well, you're very fortunate. If I was the builder, I'd have made damn sure you paid me up front. Well, you are entitled to say to the builder, nothing doing, go to hell, I don't owe you a penny and I'm not paying you a penny. Full stop. He will then chase the insurance company for the 100 quid and he'll win. And the insurance company will chase you for the 100 quid and they'll win. So if you want to be as bloody-minded as that, and Ken, now you've explained it all to me, I'd be tempted to do that myself. If you want to be as bloody-minded as all that, you can say to the builder, I'm giving you nothing. I was assuming he hadn't done the work yet. But
no,
you can say to him, I know,
really good job.
I'd just say to him...
Do you remember when you ordered a case of wine and it got delivered at somebody else's house?
Yes, I do remember, yeah.
And you got your telephone number all over the place.
I know, yeah. Outrageous.
You see what I mean?
I do. No, I'm with you. Well, sort of, except the builder has all your details. The only difference is that he now knows that you have an excess on your policy. But frankly, given his experience, he probably could have guessed that. But you're well within your rights to say, I'm not giving you a penny, get it off the insurance company. However...
Oh, no, I promised to pay him. I have got a direct
Stop worrying
card.
then. Stop worrying then.
So what you're saying is, if I stick to my guns,
if you stick to your guns, if you stick to your guns and say, I am not going to pay the builder, there's nothing the builder can do.
But I will pay the... I mean, I didn't
You'll
even
have to
know
pay...
I had an excess.
Well, you should have done, but...
Oh, I know I'm a thick,
but
yeah, I know
no,
that.
you're not thick, you just didn't read your policy, and who amongst us is not guilty of that? But certainly you will have to pay the insurance company the 100 quid. They do it for convenience. If you pay the builder, it means that they've not got to receive the money off you and then pass it on to him. The accountancy involved in that is probably about 40 quid. So if you just pay it direct, everything's sorted. But you don't have to.
I've asked them for compensation. You didn't turn up one day because you forgot. You did phoned up. You came another day. Hang on,
the question there is
electricity.
Who are you going to say let you down?
Well, I think who let me down is the insurance company having these builders who simply let me down. So
you may well be right. You may well be right. But the next question is, what was your loss? What was your loss? Let us...
What do you mean? You mean financially?
Well, you tell me what your loss was. What did you lose as a result of the builder not turning up?
Inconvenience, worry...
No, I didn't ask you any of that. I asked you what did you lose?
You've done it again, haven't you?
It's what I do. Have a good day, Ken. Cheers, mate.
That's what you do. You're a bat.
Any word that begins with bat usually ends in a word that...
Great show, listen, Alan, great show, and
I'm glad you like
advice.
It. Cheers, mate.
Stick to me guns, do it. I paid the insurance company.
By all means, yeah, have the fun of it. Why not?
Oh, by the way, I'm glad you sorted it out. I didn't want you to put me through to Mr. Pastry or the pie eater.
All right.
For them to sort it out for me.
Well, you're all right. Don't worry about pie eaters. We try to keep them at bay. 01612282255. Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk. And you can text on 07786 206 951. And there's absolutely nothing wrong with being bloody minded. And there's even less wrong with giving insurance companies the runaround. Absolutely. It's cracking fun. Somebody ran in the back of my car, and I hope he's all right, by the way. He was a while back now. He was okay. It was, just one of those things. It happens. Not looking where he's going. Clunk. And he ran in the back of my car, did a bit of damage, and we've just had fun dealing with it all. It's been wonderful fun. I might tell you about it later. Then again, I might not. Depends how I feel. 20 to 1, we got the sport coming, but first, news headlines with Faye Rusco.
The search is on for 3,000 blank passports stolen from a van in Chadderton yesterday morning. The fear is they'll be used by fraudsters to get entry to the country, set up bank accounts or get jobs. The government's given final approval for the Alderley Edge bypass this morning. It'll mean 26,000 fewer vehicles a day pass through the village centre. And British Airways have announced plans for a merger with the Spanish airline Iberia. Both brands will be retained under the deal. Manchester's weather, sunny spells, but the chance of thunderstorms later, highs of 22 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Well, it's a nice peaceful afternoon on our roads right now. No delays, no accidents and no incidents. If you're in Cheshire, though, we've seen queues through Monk's Heath. The traffic lights at the main crossroads haven't been working properly, but I can tell you, I'm just hearing now as we speak, they have been fixed and are now fully functional, so traffic there is back to normal and flowing quite freely. Do just be aware on public transport if you're taking a train London bound today. Expect delays of up to 1 hour following a signalling problem at Rugby. And if you can update me, do give me a call on 0161 244 4951. I'm Chris Uni.
BBC Radio Manchester, sports with Dennis Lloyd.
Good afternoon. Ricky Hatton has split with his trainer Billy Graham. Graham, who has been with the Manchester boxer for 11 years, has announced his retirement due to health problems. His last fight with Hatton was Hatton's points victory over Juan Lezcano in an IBO light welterweight title fight in May. Steve Harmison has missed out on an England recall for the third test against South Africa, which gets underway tomorrow at Edgbaston. Stuart Broad has been dropped as Ryan Sidebottom and Paul Collingwood have been recalled into the team. Lancashire all-rounder Andrew Flintoff says confidence will be high despite being 1-0 down in the series.
I've done all right, Edgbaston. I think the team have as well. It's been a ground which we've had a success. Obviously, everyone will harp on about the 2005 Ashes, but I think it started well before then. The stand and the support there is second to none. Sometimes it can act like a 12-man for us. The atmosphere will be great, but I think to get the atmosphere going, we have to perform first. But I'm sure we're all confident of doing that.
Rio Ferdinand remains confident he'll be fully fit for the new season. Ferdinand was restricted to just one game on Manchester United's tour of Africa, missing the opening match in Cape Town due to a back injury. Despite lack of match action, though, Ferdinand should play in Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's testimonial game against Espanyol at Old Trafford this Saturday. Wigan Athletic have extended the loan of Honduran Mena Figueroa for a further 6 months, with a view to a permanent deal. The left-back joined the Latics from Deportivo Olimpia towards the end of last season. Wolves winger Elliot Bennett has returned to Bury on loan until January. The 19-year-old spent 3 months on loan at Gig Lane last season. Bolton travelled to Tranmere this evening for a pre-season friendly. Elsewhere, Oldham welcome Premier League new boys Hull. Stockport go to Macclesfield and Wigan are at Barnsley. Robbie Keane has realised his dream and joined Liverpool on a 4-year deal. He'll take the famous number 7 shirt worn by Anfield legends Dalglish and Keegan. Tottenham could receive £20.3 million on what they describe as an enforced sale. But Keane has denied he has let Spurs down, despite anger from some Tottenham fans.
At the end of the day, Tottenham have to look after themselves, and you have to appreciate that, And I had 6 absolutely fantastic years there, and something that I'd never change, and Tottenham will always be in my heart, as a club, and the fans have been always magnificent to me, so people are going to be disappointed, and people will understand the decision why I've made it, and that's football. You have to live with it.
400-metre hurdler Rick Yates has told BBC Radio Manchester that his failure to book a place at the Beijing Olympics will only make him more determined to succeed. The Trafford athlete has missed out on selection for Team GB despite running the qualifying time at the weekend after the squad was named.
It's given me a lot of motivation to
train even harder next season. So it's in some ways it can be seen as a blessing in disguise. Obviously, I would have wanted to go to the Olympics, but I'm just going to train a lot harder throughout the winter, and I'm only 22, so I'm not going to get any slower, and my technique's still got a lot of areas where I can improve it. So I just got to look to the future and the positives, really.
And the Rugby Football League are urging fans to buy tickets quickly for this year's Challenge Cup final between St Helens and Hull at Wembley, after seeing a massive demand already. Tickets go on general sale this Thursday for Saints fans.
Heather Stott, the best guest, and a no dull people guarantee.
If you have been watching the television any time over the past few years, you will have seen John Henshaw.
Good morning.
What was it like playing Preza?
It was quite good. I had to bulk up a bit, obviously, and you know, had my hair weird, because really it was from his secretary's point of view, Tracy. So we were sort of in there just doing the slap and tickle bit.
Heather Stott, tomorrow morning from 9 on BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones.
0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
A number of people have sent a message to Nicholas and his friend with the 7 illegal immigrants in his lorry, saying, I'm sort of 4 or 5 different emails saying the same thing, which is basically there are laws. If he doesn't like them, go home. Not the kind of expression I'm comfortable with. Alfred in Stockport, hiya.
How do you do?
How do you do, Alfred? What can we do for you?
Well, I'm one of the original members of the Home Guard.
Are you really?
I'm in the 90s, and, you know, we keep seeing these things on television and one thing and another. There was nothing funny about it, because, believe me, it was very, very serious in the time. I'd been in the forces and I was discharged because I was going blind in my left eye. And when I came out, I joined the Home Guard, and of course they put a pip on my shoulder and they made me an officer. And I was a very proud person to be a member of the Home Guard. I don't like the idea that they keep putting it on the television, making it look like a comedy act. Okay.
Okay, but most things related to men and uniforms get the mickey taken out of them.
Oh yes,
it's part of the esprit de corps, isn't it?
Well, it is, but on the other hand, people who are coming along now have no idea of just what happened during the wartime, as though it was a huge joke. There was nothing funny about it at all. I mean, we were working during the daytime and going on night, you know, all night on guard.
Yeah.
And it was quite quite something to do. You used to be 2 hours on and 4 off and all that business, but it was jolly hard work. I mean, lots of people had to go and be in the forces. I was discharged because I was blind in the left eye.
Well, what I've got difficulty with, Alfred, isn't that, I mean, the Home Guard, yes, they are frequently regarded as a bit of a joke in television programmes and radio programmes and the like. But frankly, they're just having fun. Isn't that
No,
a good thing?
I know, but, you know, there was such a serious job to it that it gets on my nerves. Well, see, I know it's comedy. I love comedy. I used to be a member of a concert party, so I see the funny side. But there are times when I feel that they should show just what the Home Guard did do in their life.
What did they do? I mean, I agree that they spent a lot of time and a lot of energy, if you like, but frankly, what did they do?
Well, they were protecting the area that you lived in so much as that we got such a lot of air raids at the time.
Well, that was the air raid wardens.
Oh, well, no.
What did you lot do?
Well, we had to patrol the state around the streets.
Yeah, but what did that achieve?
Well, it achieved the fact that people felt better about things when they knew someone was outside in case of any problems. You know,
what sort of problems?
Well, when Jerry started to bomb.
But you weren't there for that. You were there. That, as I say, was the job of the air raid wardens. And
No. It was a different thing altogether.
Well, I'm asking. That's what I'm asking. I mean, the Home Guard were there, if you like, for the defence of the nation as a last resort.
That's right.
Right. But, I mean, the Ack batteries, they weren't run by the Home Guard.
Well, yes, they were.
Well, tell me about it.
Well, I was in the Ack section.
Yeah.
And I was on Mellon's playing field at Stockport, at Reddish there. And we had four guns, and we used to have a pot at Jerry when he was coming over. That was our job.
Right, so you were actually armed to the teeth and the rest of it?
Well, whatever you call it, yes.
I think 4 Ack guns is armed to the teeth.
You've got to remember this way. We were working all daytime.
Well, I know that.
And then we went on the... I wouldn't like to think it would ever happen again. I don't think it would do, because it'd happen, I suppose things would be over in a couple of days, wouldn't it, the way things are now with this atom bomb business and what have you.
Well, that depends on whether they used it or not, but I don't think we're going to reach the situation of an invasion for the foreseeable future.
Alan, we've got such idiots that will cause it.
Well, I wasn't for any minute, Alfred, suggesting it is because the politicians had suddenly got clever. Dear God, no. But I don't think we're facing that at the moment.
Well, let's hope not, anyway.
This is how cross you'll get, Alfred. Listen to this. Kevin's just sent me an email saying, being an officer, did you have a broom handle with a bread knife on it?
Oh, no.
You see, that's the kind of thing that you're
I know, that was the committal side of it, looking at Brad's army. I love it. I love it on there. But there was such a serious type to it that I don't see that side at all. There was no fun about it. When you thought, I mean, all right, fellas worked all day and then they went on duty at night. I know you got 2 hours on and 4 off and all that business, but it was just like being in the forces.
Yeah.
You know, I hope it never happens again for anybody, you know. But I just thought I'd mention the fact that
that's all right.
I'm still alive at this time.
Still alive, yeah. You just wanted someone to know that. Fair enough, Alfred.
Not too many people can say that nowadays, is there?
Good on you, mate. Well, we can all say it, but anyway.
Yeah. Okay, Alan.
Have a good one. Alfred gets he's not had a sense of humour bypass. He's not saying it's not funny. He's just saying that just once in a while it'd be a good idea if we remembered that the Home Guard, some of the Home Guard you might want to say, but the Home Guard did some serious stuff. And even if it wasn't serious stuff, it felt like it at the time. You're doing your best at the time. That's the thing, isn't it? Kevin in Bury, hiya, Kevin.
Hello, Alan. Listen, I wonder if he remembers the Army game. Get some in the day into half hot, man.
Oh, all of them, yeah. The Army game with Bootsy and Snudge, Bill Fraser and Alfie Bass.
That's it,
And Ted Loon. Do you remember Ted Loon?
Not unless... Oh, was he the one that looked like he had false teeth?
No, he looked like he had false eyes. He was about 8 foot tall, as thin as a rake, and had really big eyes. And he used to say... Oh, no, I'm thinking of Bernard Breslau used to say, well, I only asked.
Yeah, that was a carry-on film, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I think, wasn't he in Dad's Army as well? Can't remember, but Ted Loon was, anyway. Oh, people will know now.
He'll have you phoning in. No, the reason I phoned up is about these people, about this HGV driver that's could possibly face a fine.
Yeah.
Well, I find it ironic that the driver, even innocently knows that he's not got anybody in the back, right? Could get £1,000 fine for each illegal immigrant. Yet the illegal immigrants, all they do is ship them out, and they're the ones that are causing the trouble. And what I was going to say is, just for argument's sake, Alan, right, he manages to get through customs and into England, and he hears a knocking in the back of his wagon. He finds 6 illegal immigrants in the back of his wagon. What's he to do? To me, he's going to say, come on, get out. Or is he going to go to the police and face the possibility of £1,000 fine?
Well, bizarre that you should say that, but the legislation is comparatively new that makes the driver wholly and utterly responsible. And there has been at least one case, but I think there have been more. But there is at least one case of a driver who faced a fine having driven the illegal immigrants to a police station.
I've heard of people being drink driving and gone to a police station and themselves in. You know, I've actually heard of somebody being stupid enough not to leave car behind and walk away from it till it's sobered up. But, you know, to me, they're just going to come into the country, they're going to hear a banging, they're going to open up, have a look, find them and kick them out. And all it is, it's all the bloke is doing is the customs job for them. Because they're not finding them.
But I'll ask you what I asked Nicholas, and I personally don't have an answer to this question, and you know what I'm like about being a free nation. But how else are we to discourage lorry drivers if we leave them with the defence of, well, I didn't know? If we leave them with that defence, how are we going to discourage crooked lorry drivers from taking 10 grand to carry illegal immigrants?
If they came in on the train, Alan, who'd be responsible for that?
They wouldn't get in on the train because they'd have to get on the train and all the rest of it, and there are places to prevent it. If they managed to smuggle their way onto a train, you wouldn't blame the driver, but the driver can hardly be expected to check half a mile of train. But one lorry, it's easy, isn't it?
I'll tell you what would be ironic if they found a load of forged passports with them.
Well, they still might.
Well, yeah. All right, thank you, Alan.
All right, mate, have a good one. Ta-ra now. 0161 228 2255. Dear Alan, you're actually a major offender in the misuse of the English language. You and just about everybody else in the media, as well as the general public, now uses the term issue instead of saying, I disagree, I have a problem, I have a question. Why can't people, you included, speak English anymore? This numpty phrase gets on my chest hairs, along with the phrase of I went or he went. Thank you, Sean. Do I use the word issue in that way? I may have done, but I don't remember. It's not a word I use very often. Anyway, there you are. I'm perfectly happy to stand in the corner and wear the dunce's cap. It's not a new experience, I assure you. Jeff in Haywood. Hiya, Jeff.
Hiya. Alan, about this illegal immigrants coming in,
yes,
wagons, right. When that driver goes abroad, or wherever he's stationed, picks a trailer or a container up, them back doors are sealed with a seal. Now, if he stops off for a night, overnight, for his bed and breakfast or whatever he does, and he goes back to that wagon, and them seals are broke, he can refuse to move that trailer. That's the law, I think.
Well, yes, it is, but they're not all sealed.
Well,
they're not, by any stretch of the imagination, they're not all sealed, if only they were.
Well, usually when I was driving, if I had to pick any loads up like that, they was sealed. If you tampered with that load, or them back doors on that container, you were liable. So, really, they should all be sealed. Even the sheeted wagons that come over, underneath them, they're all wood. The rails underneath them, but they can still seal them. You know, there should be a way around it. And there again, the driver, as you know, he can leave that trailer if them seals are broke.
Well, Jeff, I bow to your superior knowledge, but I'm of the view, until you just told me otherwise, that not every lorry coming from foreign parts to the UK is sealed. And by sealed, I mean, it depends on what you mean by sealed. Certainly it's got the doors closed. It might even have a lock on.
It has a metal...
Well, if you're talking about...
Like electric meter does.
Well, if you're talking about that kind of customs seal, the piece of tough wire with a lead seal...
That's right.
Right. I don't think they all are.
Oh, right.
In fact, I'm almost certain that they're all not. Perhaps heavy goods vehicle drivers listening to us right now will come on and tell us whether that is the case. But yes, the seal is the seal is the solution. Although we did, of course, have a case yesterday where Sir Howard Bernstein, the Chief Executive of Manchester City Council and the returning officer for our area, actually told somebody that an officer of the election had managed to open a box, a ballot box, and remove from it various pieces of paper and other gadgetry of the election and close it again without breaking the seal. That's what I've got the letter at my desk. That's what he said.
It's Houdini.
Who bloody Dini, you're absolutely right. It's no wonder that Paul Daniels can't get work when election officers can do things like that. Good on you, Jeff.
Right,
cheers, mate. Can anyone confirm or deny, can anyone tell us the facts about sealing lorries? Not lorries on the ceiling, don't be silly, we'll leave that to Lionel Richie and dancing. No, about whether lorries coming through British customs are all sealed on the continent. Can you tell me? I don't know. What am I already?
A
first listen to some of the best new music released this week, plus a play of a classic album celebrating its birthday. Tonight from 10 with me, Sam Walker.
Another story in the paper today where two women who like each other are absolutely outraged because they've been outed as gays. Why is it that only gay people think it's bad to be gay?
95.1 FM, DAB Digital Radio, and the World Wide Web. This is Manchester. BBC Radio Manchester.
At 1 o'clock, the killer of a Rochdale schoolgirl's been refused leave to appeal, and the great passport hunt gets underway.
Ricky Hatton's trainer retires.
Well, this afternoon we've got some sunny spells, but we're also going to get 1 or 2 showers, and they could be heavy and they could be thundery. Top temperatures 23 Celsius.
No major delays on our motorways at the moment. However, if you're in Lymm, Mill Lane has been closed. It's closed in both directions between Bradshaw Lane and Warrington Lane. That's following flooding earlier today.
Good afternoon, I'm Faye Rusco. The man who murdered schoolgirl Leslie Molseed has been refused leave to appeal against his conviction. Ronald Castry also failed in an attempt to have his minimum sentence reduced. Judges sitting in Leeds throughout his joint submission this morning. The search is on for 3,000 blank passports stolen from a van in Chadderton yesterday morning. The documents were destined for British embassies overseas and are worth up to £2,000 on the black market. DCI Bill McGreevy is investigating whether it was a targeted attack.
That's part of a line of inquiry that we will be looking at, and that's why I want to actually track the movement of the van from the premises to the place where the theft took place. I can't speculate on that, but obviously what I will do is I want to know whether it was a normal stop for the drivers to get a paper there and things like that.
David Brown is an expert in passports from BSB Forensic. He fears they'll be used by fraudsters to set up bank accounts or get jobs.
The fact that these passports are some of the most modern around and are therefore very secure, if you're travelling through an appropriate border that is properly equipped, they are of a limited value. But if they're not being used for that, then of course they are very valuable to the criminal entities wherever they happen to be.
Works to get underway on the Alderley Edge bypass next month. The government's given its final approval to the project, which will mean 26,000 fewer vehicles a day passing through the village. It's scheduled to open in 2011. An NHS report out today says the care at Tameside General Hospital has improved significantly. In 2006, Coroner John Pollard said the wards were despicable and chaotic after some patients were left lying in their own excrement. A review was ordered and now they've reported back saying there's been significant improvements in patient care. The number of mortgages approved for house purchases fell to a new record low last month. There were 36,000, a drop of nearly 70% compared to the same time last year. A report for the Treasury will say the government could provide a guarantee for new mortgage-backed securities to make it easier for lenders to raise funds. George Cox, who was an independent director at Bradford and Bingley, says the idea is a good one.
The mortgage market in this country that we've enjoyed cannot be supported by retail savings alone. So you're either going to cut right back to it where only a third of the people, or half people who should get mortgages get them, or do something about it.
A woman in Jersey says bouncers at a club on the island have told several women they couldn't come in because they were too fat. Men who were considered overweight were allowed in. The owner of the Havana club has apologised to the women and says the ban is no longer in place. But Chantal Marie Gould says the damage has been done.
I wouldn't have minded if the bouncers didn't give a reason, but they were telling the people why they weren't allowed in. It's because you're too big, it's because you're overweight, you need to lose weight. My friend was a size 12 and she got refused entry because she's big-chested. She's big-chested, so she looks bigger, and then she got refused entry as well because she was too overweight.
And British Airways have announced plans for a merger with the Spanish airline Iberia. Both brands are being retained under the deal, although shareholders still need to give it their approval.
BBC Radio Manchester Sports.
with Delith Lloyd.
Boxer Ricky Hatton will be without his trainer for November's IBF light welterweight title fight against Paulie Malignaggi after he announced his retirement. Billy Graham, Hatton's trainer of 11 years, has said he will retire following a fight on Friday. His last fight with Hatton was Hatton's points victory over Juan Lizcano in an IBO light welterweight title bout in May. Steve Harmison has missed out on an England recall for the third test against South Africa, which gets underway tomorrow at Edgbaston. Stuart Broad has been dropped. Ryan Sidebottom and Paul Collingwood have been recalled into the team. 400-metre hurdler Rick Yates has told BBC Radio Manchester that he'll bounce back after failing to make the Beijing Olympics. The Trafford athlete has missed out on selection for Team GB, despite running the qualifying time at the weekend after the squad was named. And Wolves winger Elliot Bennett has returned to Bury on loan until January. The 19-year-old spent 3 months at Gig Lane last season.
BBC Radio Manchester satellite weather with Heather Stotts.
Well, this afternoon we are going to see 1 or 2 sunny spells, but there is a lot of cloud around, and that cloud could thicken up enough to bring us 1 or 2 showers. Now, if those showers do turn up, there is the likelihood that they could be heavy and they could be thundery. It does feel cooler than it has done lately. Top temperatures 23 Celsius.
Allan Beswick, halfway through your workday.
BBC Radio Manchester.
Right, now don't blame me, because I just read them out. Norman says, Cadbury's chocolate animals, you know the ones. On the pack it says, do not consume if the seal is broken. And guess what? The one animal that's always broken is the seal. Thank you, Norman. Oh, dear God. Is this what it's come to? Sid in Salford. Hiya, Sid.
Good afternoon.
Afternoon, sir.
Well, what I was wanted to tell you was that you had that veteran on speaking about his time as a home guard.
Alfred, yeah.
Well, before they were the home guard, there was, I don't know whether they were a proper military outfit, but they were known as the Local Defence Volunteers.
LDV, yeah.
And we used to refer to them as the Look, Duck and Vanish.
Fair enough.
And also, my father, well, 4 of us served in the Second World War, and I served in the same unit that you were in. Anyway, my father served in the LDV, and they used to, I don't know what they were supposed to be doing, but he used to tell us that they used to go parading in Heaton Park and God knows what. And also, during the time that you're the veteran, who I compliment, by the way, there were also other people that served in a civil situation, such as the heavy, people that went into bombed out buildings to rescue people. There were the fire watchers. I did fire watching before I went into the army. I used to fire watch on a local church. And there were many, many people that used to serve working during the day and spend time, as I say, fire watching. And there were also boys who used to run about on bicycles carrying messages for the wardens, the ARP people.
Mm.
And I think I compliment your correspondent that was on about his time as in the Home Guard, but he's saying they don't, he doesn't like them being made fun of. Well, my dad used to say they didn't like being referred to as a Look, Duck and Vanish merchant.
It's what I was trying to hint at, and to a certain extent he accepted, and that is that if you're going to put a uniform on, you're going to get the mickey took out of you, because that's how it's done. That's part of the world, isn't it?
Indeed, because in the army, as you very well know, Alan, that we used to make fun of every damn thing. the only way of surviving.
Absolutely. If it moves, mock it. If it stays still, paint it.
And if that's right, salute it.
I salute it was the one.
Salute it. If it doesn't move, whitewash it.
Whitewash it. Yeah, whitewash the coal. Oh dear
that's
God.
Right, yeah.
Crazy.
Mm. Well,
but I mean, people do get upset from time to time, and he is right in that you rarely hear a complimentary word about the Home Guard, do you?
No. Well, what I might refer to is the fact that one of my brothers was invalided out, and he served in the heavy rescue outfits. And you know, it was another of my brothers was in the Territorial Army, and was then seconded abroad to the East African Rifles, where he was made an officer, although he was only a lance corporal acting unpaid, unwanted. And he finished up, if I might tell you an old story he used to tell us, that at one function he was at, he was approached by a middle-aged dowager lady who inquired about his regiment, and she said, "Pray tell me, you know, what is your regiment?" And he said, "Well, madam, it's a unit comprised of white officers with black privates." She said, "How exotic."
I'm sorry, I heard that coming as soon as you said.
You know, you've heard it before, haven't you?
Oh, absolutely, yeah. It doesn't stop it being funny, though, does it?
No.
Good on you, mate.
I thought I'd let him know, you know, I mean, there were other civilian outfits that worked tremendously hard, and as I'm an old soldier as well, I'm damn near approaching my 90s now, and I have full respect for everybody that contributed to do what they called their bit in those days.
And in the case of the Home Guard, was it a big bit or a little bit, in your view?
Well, when we returned from abroad, we did rather a naughty thing, and we upset the camp, and they sent some Home Guards to quell this, what was supposed to be a rebellion. And I'm afraid they got short shrift.
Yes, I bet that went down awfully well. Good on you, Sid.
All right.
Cheers, mate. 0161228 2255, Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and you can text on 07786 206 951. John Darwin, the dead canoeist, the undead canoeist, has criticised a holiday firm which plans to take British tourists to the places he visited in Central America. Do we really care what the lying little rag thinks? I would have thought, no, we don't. The couple, John and Anne Darwin, were jailed last week, 6 years after he faked his own death in a canoe accident off the northeast coast. The couple had planned to use £250,000 in insurance and pension payouts to start a new life in Panama. Well, there you are. Journey Latin America has created a £1,400 based holiday based on places that the Darwins visited. Of course, the holiday itself is pretty good, but that canoeing in the North Sea is a bit of a bummer to kick it off. But 0161 228 2255. I don't know whether you heard this story about two fat ladies. 88, yeah, bingo all round. They weren't allowed in a nightclub because they were too fat. What a cracking idea. We ought to stop them going all sorts of places. No fat people on the bus. No fat people on the train. They take up too much space. No fat people on the plane. What a cracking idea. You're too fat, you're not coming in. Well, it's not my fault I'm fat. Yes, it is. You keep chewing, you lazy cow.
Your Sunday Morning Lion with Mike Shaft.
250 other bishops weren't there. A huge chunk of that 75 million will disappear. What's going to happen?
We're talking about the Anglican Communion. A large part of the growth of the Anglican Communion is in what is known as the Global South.
Mike Shaft.
Do you use religion, faith? Or are you a Christian who happens to be a comedian?
I'll talk about my faith if I think it's appropriate. So I do talk about my faith, but I'll try not to make it in a kind of preachy way. It's kind of incidental.
Manchester's faith, spirit and life's difficult questions with Mike Shaft.
No group or individual has been barred.
Sunday morning from 7 on BBC Radio Manchester.
Ray says he's in Winton. Well, that's not what he says that as well, but the essence of what he says is that, if memory serves me correctly, Ted Loon's catchphrase was, "Oh, heck." I don't remember that. Listen, I'm not saying you're wrong, I'm just saying I don't remember. John in Warrington, are you, John?
Hi, Alan. You okay?
Not bad, sir. What have you got?
Good. Yeah, it's about a broken guitar on a flight back from Nice.
A broken what?
Guitar.
Oh, right, yeah.
I paid extra to have it put in the hole, and it was in a hard case,
And when I got home, it was broken, obviously fallen down from the cargo rack or whatever. So I went back and made a claim and showed them the guitar, and they gave me a claim number. And they told me to email the airline, so I did that. And I got a reply basically saying, try your insurance company first, because we don't pay out much, word to that effect. So I'm just wondering the best way to kind of phrase the letter in order to get the sort of maximum response.
Who from?
From the airline.
I'd give up.
The thing is, it's one of these. They really want to put you through the mill.
Yes, they do.
And it's so I'm kind of prepared for that. But I'm just, I did pay extra to have the guitar protected and put in the hold, and it was in a hard case. So I did everything on my part.
When you say it was in a hard case, what do you mean? Was it in a flight box?
No, it was in a hard guitar case.
Right, well...
As opposed to a soft one.
Yeah. All that means is paying extra to have it put in the old just means it'll be in the old. Now, by all means, attempt to claim for them. Was it by any chance a low-cost airline?
It was.
You're stuffed.
Really?
Yeah. How much is the guitar worth?
About 300 quid.
Right. Threaten to sue them, they'll let you. Why not just claim off your house insurance?
Yeah, I'm just wondering how to do that, because if I say...
Well, you phone up to your house insurance and you say exactly what you've told me.
But would they not be inclined to say, well, just, it's the airline's responsibility?
It's not a matter of who's responsible. You buy an insurance policy to protect you from the consequences of an event. Now, there are certain events that aren't covered, but I would suspect that damage in transit is one of the things that is covered. Have a look at your household policy. It'll be a lot easier to claim off them
fair enough.
than it will be to try and wrestle a low-cost airline to the ground, because they are as tight as ducks' bums.
Yeah, I can see. It's just... It's weird that they get you to pay. So, I mean, I paid an extra 10 quid on the outset for another bag, but obviously my guitar, not obviously to me certainly, that the extra, the guitar wasn't another piece of baggage. It was under sports equipment.
But they're charging you for putting it in the hold. They're not guaranteeing that no harm will come to it. Now, they do have certain responsibilities, and if you look on your ticket and refer to their terms and conditions on the internet and all of that, they'll tell you what they are. They also take the trouble to limit their liability in cost. So unless you put it in a flight box and get it conveyed as a special item, like when the BBC goes abroad with all their musical instruments, then frankly you're going to have a hard time, and it's much easier just to claim off your house insurance.
Yeah, I'll do that then. I was just trying to second guess their response, which was...
Oh, I can tell you their response. It'll be until you get to court.
Right, I didn't guess that. I didn't think it sound like that.
That's what it'll be sound like. It'll be absolute gibberish. Low-cost airlines, they're as liable. They are as liable as all the others, but they're snakes in the grass, and they frankly will go to any lengths to not pay out.
Yeah,
that's
they'll
how
just wear you down, won't they? With
well, they won't wear you down. They'll just ignore you to death.
Right. I did get a response, but it was basically
go to hell.
Try anywhere else but us.
Yeah. Well, when you get in touch, I'm going through this at the moment because we were burgled on holiday. When you get in touch with the insurance company, one of the questions they will ask you is there any other company that could be responsible for this compensation?
Yeah.
And say no. Because I've been in touch with the airline. I mean, don't put because, just say no, because you've been in touch with the airline. The airline has said you don't really want to be mauling about with us. And insurance companies are accustomed to this, providing, of course, your policy includes items away from home.
Yeah, I think it does,
actually. They nearly all do these days, but they don't all.
Yeah,
I mean,
I would be surprised. It just seems surprising that an insurance company, if given a small glimpse or a glint of light in it being liable elsewhere, they wouldn't fight to the death down that route.
No, the liability elsewhere doesn't eliminate their liability. The liability they have stands. Now, they might want to encourage you to go somewhere else, but you just have to say, no, I took out insurance with you. This is one of the risks I wanted protecting against, and you are contracted to protect against. What they want to know about the other places where you might get compensation from is, of course, you're not entitled to get compensation twice.
Yes. Of course, I'm not going to claim twice.
No, I know you're not, but that's one of the reasons they ask. And indeed, they now have a central file whereby things are checked against other insurers. As I say,
oh, really?
Yeah, I'm in the process of claiming from my own household insurance for $3.5 grand worth of stuff that was nicked when we were on holiday.
So you tell everybody you're going on holiday? That's your fault.
Well, they were nicked. They were nicked in France.
Oh, were they?
Yes, they weren't.
Oh, right,
They weren't nicked. They weren't nicked from our house. We have a house sitter at our house. Our house was as occupied as it is when we lived there. No, it was when we were in France. It was our holiday accommodation in France that was burgled, and they got $3.5 grand worth of stuff. Wow. And our insurance company is in the process of sorting that out. Now,
right, where were you staying, by the way?
We stayed in a rented house in well, it don't matter where, but in the south of France.
Right.
And a private rented house. Now, there may well be insurance at that house. It may well be that our travel insurance covers that liability, but my answer is I don't care. I'm going to go to the insurance company that covers it all, and I'll get all my money back, because I've suffered a loss. It's all part of the admin.
Are you saying that you're claiming for that on your house insurance?
Yes.
Your travel insurance?
My house insurance.
Well, why not your travel insurance?
Because travel insurance have much more... There's much more difficulty in getting claims from travel insurance that aren't related to the event, as it were, the travelling.
Oh, the actual going from A to B rather than being at B?
That's right, if your holiday's cancelled or any of that. But if it's actually a theft, frankly, you're better off with your house insurance, in my experience.
Okay.
All right.
That's good advice. That's brilliant. Thanks, Alan.
I might have an entirely different view in 10 days' time when they ring back and say, not a prayer.
Okay.
Good on you, John.
Cheers, Alan.
0161 228 2255. Just gone 1:20 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines with Faye Rusco.
The man who murdered the schoolgirl Leslie Molseed has been refused leave to appeal against his conviction. Ronald Castry also failed in an attempt to have his minimum sentence reduced. Works to get underway on the Alderley Edge bypass next month after getting final approval from the government. It's scheduled to open in 2011. And the search is on for 3,000 blank passports stolen from a van in Chadderton yesterday morning. The documents were destined for British embassies overseas. Manchester's weather, sunny spells, but the chance of thunderstorms later. Highs of 22 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
Well, no delays on our motorways this afternoon. The M60 and M62 both seem to be flowing quite freely. Do be aware if you're in Royton that Shaw Road is closed. Now, it's been closed for a week now, and it's going to be closed until the end of August for resurfacing work. All traffic's being diverted over Oldham Road and Shaw Road, Royton, also Manchester Road and through Hayside. All those routes are getting quite busy as we speak, so do expect the odd queue if you are in the area. Into Lim and Mill Lane has reopened. It closed earlier today following flooding around Bradshaw Lane, but it has opened and traffic there is once again flowing freely. If you want to update me, do give me a call on 0161 244 4951. I'm Chris Uni.
Decongesting Manchester, one car at a time. 2020 traffic.
BBC Radio Manchester.
A very good day to you. Some people have the same thoughts as me, and I think it's rather worrying. You remember we were talking to Sid, and he said, I used to have lads running messages on bikes. David in Crumpsall says some things just don't change. Today's young lads still run errands on their bikes, often for the local illicit pharmaceutical distributors. Do you know, I had exactly that thought when he was talking. How horrible are we? Oh, dear God. 0161 228 2255. Steve in central Manchester. Hiya, Steve.
Hello, Alan.
What have you got, mate? I'm all right.
What it is, you were on about the truck driver who brought the illegal immigrants in.
Yeah.
I exactly did the same thing as him.
Did you?
I got off from Switzerland with a seal load on a curtain-sided wagon that was sealed in Switzerland. Now, Switzerland's a country where you've got to go through, with it not being in the EU, you go through their border.
Yeah.
Check the seal as you come out. Now, from Switzerland to Luxembourg, because that's the way you come down to get your diesel, is 4.5 hours drive. From there, you can make the boat, just about make the boat. I got on the boat in my driving time. I got off the other side. Before I got on the boat, I had the gas test in France, where they put the probes up the side of the wagon and they check for carbon monoxide.
The exhalations of immigrants, yeah.
Yep, they give you a certificate to say you're clear.
Yeah.
You join the queue for the boat.
Mm-hmm.
And the queue for the boat is got to be 60, 70 wagons, maybe the same in cars, all waiting to get on the boat. So you park for an hour. You get on the boat, I come off the other side, the customs pull me, and I have 10 illegal immigrants in.
Extraordinary.
Now, when I left Switzerland, it was dry. When I got to Belgium, when I got to Luxembourg, it was raining. And I mean raining as in cats and dogs. When I got to Dover, these immigrants were dry. It turns out the immigrants were on the boat in another wagon.
Right.
Transferred from a foreign wagon into an English wagon.
Presumably, in the process of doing that, broke the seal on your vehicle.
No, they didn't break the seal. They cut the cord that goes around
right.
the wagon.
Yeah, and got through that way, yeah, because it's
got through that way.
soft-sided.
And then, would you believe, put a self-tapping screw with no head in it into the cord and superglued it.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
So that when you pull the cord, before you get off the boat and check under... You see what they tend to do? They tend to hold on to the axles as well. So when you get on when you come out of the queue at at Calais,
yeah,
you could have 2 illegal immigrants on your axles. There is no deterring. I actually followed 3 wagons down the motorway going to Calais, and the last wagon had an illegal immigrant. Sorry, the front wagon had an illegal immigrant on the axle that fell off, and the wagon behind him ran him over. And then drivers did not stop.
No, well, why would they?
Well, they wouldn't.
Because they'd just be... You're just inviting nightmare, aren't you? Some of the rules and regulations we have made have turned us as a society into quite cruel. I got an email off Malcolm just after we were talking to Nicholas. I got an email off Malcolm in Offerton, and he says this: the issue raised by the lorry driver, why do we allow the media and our government to soften the blow of dehumanising people by giving them the label of illegal immigrant? For God's sake, all they want is a better life, and in many cases they want to escape dreadful conditions. Come on, he says, it's 2008. We all share the same planet and should work together for the future of our children. That's Malcolm in Offerton. But we do, don't we? We have dehumanised those people who would want a better life. And yet, when British people go to live abroad, as I hope I will do one day, and many millions of others have done so, we don't have the same point of view.
No, we don't.
We think, people who've gone to Australia, we think, well, good on them, they get a good life. Well, they're financial immigrants.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing wrong with that. I'm just saying it's interesting that the opposing views we hold about the same thing.
The lengths they'll go to get to England is unbelievable. It's absolutely... In fact, when the traffic's queued up on the motorway, if the tunnel's running late and the traffic's queued to go into the terminal for the tunnel on the French side, they will literally jump off a bridge onto the top of a wagon.
You see,
most drivers know that they cannot stop when they come out of, say, they came from Luxembourg down through Belgium into France. Drivers know that they can't stop on any service station unless there's 2 or 3 wagons running in a convoy, of English wagons running in a convoy, because when they stop to get fuel, obviously they buy fuel to come back to the UK.
Yeah.
But they know that immigrants are going to get into their trucks.
You see, in an odd sort of a way, Steve, and I'm not a man who does pride in nationhood, but I think I think that gives me a sense of pride that our nation is so attractive to people abroad.
yeah.
But what happened in your case eventually? I mean, here you are. You're found in a cut and dried case, as it were, if you'll pardon the pun, given the cord story. But what happened to you?
They actually took the wagon. I actually worked for somebody, and they actually took the wagon off us.
So they confiscated the lorry.
We went
fairly
to court.
standard. Yeah.
We actually went to court with my employer, and we won the court case in court because we'd done everything that the customs asked you to do regarding the illegal immigrants, as in I get the gas check, the driver checks the wagon. The court case took roughly about 6 months to come to court, so for 6 months we lost that vehicle.
And that's a lot of money. I mean, the value of a lorry these days, they're touching 100,000, aren't they? You know.
Well, yeah, it wasn't probably worth that, but it was going to court and trying to justify what had happened.
That must have been quite scary.
It was. I was only young, probably about 35 when this happened. I wouldn't say it sent me over the edge, but it didn't send me far off. I actually changed my job about 12 months later and went working, still driving abroad, but driving a wagon that carried frozen food. And they even tried to get in that. And that was at -5 and -10 sometimes with the loads they used to carry. And they'd literally try and get in that.
It's quite something, isn't it? Quite something.
It's scary to say.
Well, I mean, obviously, just hearing your experience, the legislation that's a few years old now, you'll probably be able to date when it came in, given all your involvement in it. But the legislation now, to all intents and purposes, puts the responsibility squarely on the driver. Not even the owner, although the owner can lose his lorry, as you just amply described, but puts the responsibility on the driver. What do you think would be a more just way of dealing with it?
Well, the checks in the immigration, when I got to Dover, interviewed me, and they turned around and said the gas test I had was worthless because the French don't switch the machine on because they don't want them in their country.
We're back to that argument that Nicholas was making earlier. You go through the French emigration control, and you immediately go to the the British immigration control and get different results because they're looking for different things.
You see, the French. What they say now is if they deport them, and these people register themselves as the first country they come to, if they register themselves in France, when they deport them back to France. Or if vice versa, if the first country they come through is Belgium, and they register at Belgium, they refer them back to the Belgium authorities.
Yeah. So of course, those authorities don't want to find them; they want them out.
No, they don't.
So what then? I mean, do you have any thoughts on how we might take the responsibility away from the lorry driver, other than those who clearly are guilty, but take the responsibility away from the lorry driver? Where do we then put it?
Well, I don't really know, because really it shouldn't be down to the lorry driver. If he's done his checks and he's got his gas test and he's gone through all the rigmarole, you know, what else can the driver do?
I suppose the only answer, and the financial consequences of this are huge, but so be it, the only answer is to have the immigration authorities search every vehicle.
Yeah.
That's the only way, isn't it? Because otherwise we're relying on you, and all we're doing really as a nation is we're saying, well, look, we can't really afford immigration controls. Frankly, we want them because it's good politic, and the only way we can make them work is by making poor Joe Public, who sits at the front of the lorry, being responsible.
It is. I've actually seen them get onto the railway lines for the Channel Tunnel off the motorway. The railway line runs parallel to the motorway, and they will literally get on the railway lines waiting for a train. And all the French do is they chase them off.
Yeah, because if they're trying to get out the country, not in.
At night, round the tunnel, round Dover, round Kelly, is all little campfires where they're all waiting.
Yeah, we've seen them on telly, haven't we?
And it's disheartening, because you can't make a living out of the job. There's no way at all you can go abroad and make a living, because if anything happens like that, and there's no insurance you can take out.
No, you can't. You can never insure against criminality, your own criminality. I'm not suggesting you were a criminal, but you can't insure against being a criminal. And of course, if you're convicted of such a thing, then no insurance company would pay out. Good to talk to you, Steve. Thank you for your experience. Cheers. Have a good day. Dave in Bury said, this item about fat ladies being refused entry into a nightclub, I would suggest that the doormen were acting under health and safety law. After all, would you like to be crushed to death by a couple of bloaters on the dance floor? Exactly, says Dave in Bury. You're not really helping a lot. 0161 228 2255. Alan, perhaps one solution to reduce volumes of traffic on our roads and to dump the congestion charge at the same time is to ban all fat people from all vehicles. That's Fat Tony, as he describes himself. Tony, that's an eminently sensible idea, because, of course, if you don't allow fat people to use vehicles, then they'll have to walk. And a couple of months later, they won't be fat anymore.
Allan Beswick with you on the phones.
0161 228 2255.
BBC Radio Manchester.
We trade in logic. Eric in Hale. Hiya, Eric.
Hiya, Alan. Good story about the Home Guard.
Oh, go on.
I lived in Stratford, and all my pals lived in Urmston, and they joined the Home Guard. So I decided I'd join in Urmston, not Stratford. So I went down one night to join, and the two told me particulars down, the sergeant, and then he said, how old are you, Eric? I said, I'm 16. He said, don't make that mistake again, because I were only 15.
Right.
So he signed me on, and I was in there for many years, a few years, in Urmston. The trouble was, if there were a call out, they had to send a dispatch rider for me, because I lived so far up.
So a fella come on a motorbike for
Yeah.
you? Good Lord.
To tell me, to and I had a 303 rifle with ammunition, which I kept at home in my wardrobe, but I hid the ammunition. Even my mother didn't know where it was.
Probably wise.
Yeah. And then, and I worked at Metrovix for 50 years. And I came home one night, and my mum said, there's a letter here from the War Office. I said, the War Office? I said, what does it say? She said, I haven't opened it. She said, perhaps it's a call up to the army. I said, they can't, I'm on war work. Anyway, I couldn't believe it, Alan. When I opened it up, they were transferring me from an ordinary Home Guard unit to a regular army ACAC site where there were some armed, like me, on.
Yeah.
And I think it was because I was too far away.
Yeah. Was one of them called Alfred?
I don't know.
All right. No, it's just that Alfred served on an ACAC as a member.
Did he?
Yeah, and he was in the
Well,
Home
it weren't
Guard.
far, 500 yards from home.
Well, there you are. That's handy, isn't it?
Anyway, I went and I was on that, and then for practice, we went on the coast and fired the rockets out to sea for practice.
Yeah.
But if there was an air raid, the regular army man, there were rocket guns. He actually fired the rockets, and the Home Guard, like me, took instructions for him. He'd tell me to rotate the gun.
So you were the aimers, effectively.
Or elevate it to a certain angle.
Yeah.
And that's what we did.
Fabulous. Well, it's all important, isn't it?
Well, the thing was, it was a naffy on it. You know, it was a proper a regular army site.
Excellent.
And there were women on it, of course, and all that.
All in favour of that.
Yeah. And then after the war, at the end of December 44, they closed all the Home Guard down.
Yeah, well, it wasn't needed anymore, was it?
No.
They had them on the run by then.
That's right.
Yeah.
And in front of me, I've got a certificate.
Oh, excellent.
It says, in the years when our country was in mortal danger, Eric Archer, who served from the 29th of May 42 to the 31st of December 44, gave generously of his time and powers to make himself ready for her defence by force of arms and with his life if need be. Signed, George R.I. And at the bottom, in big red letters, it says the Home Guard.
Marvellous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I've no objection to this TV programme where they make fun of it.
So you don't mind being laughed at?
Do I? No.
Good on you, mate. Thank you very much, Eric. Thank you. It's getting on for 20 to 2. Dear Alan, says Sean, I thought it was rather funny when the ex-Home Guard Wallace said that he'd been discharged from the army because he was blind in one eye, but they made him an officer in the Home Guard. That could have come straight from Dad's army, could that? Bless them all, says Sean. They did their bit. Well, at least they tried to. Exactly. Everybody gives according to his ability to give. It sounds fair to me. 0161 228 2255, Radio Manchester at bbc.co.uk, and of course you can text on 07786 206 951. Alan, though the canoeist and his wife have been found guilty of a large fraud, I think by today's sentencing, the sentence they got of some 6.5 years each. A few weeks ago, a girl stabbed to death another girl who also had a knife, and the killer walked free. The presumed dead couple have been criticised for lying to their children, but surely, if they'd told them the truth, the children would have been guilty as well. Unless, of course, the children turned them in. I suspect they wouldn't have done. Or maybe they would. I don't know. What do you think? 20 to 2 on BBC Radio Manchester. News headlines with Richard Stead.
Profits are up by more than £16 million at Manchester Airport, despite a fall in passenger numbers. They made £96 million last year, mainly thanks to the shops and car parks. The man who murdered the Rochdale schoolgirl Leslie Molseed has been refused leave to appeal against his conviction. Ronald Castry from Leeds also failed in an attempt to have his minimum sentence of 30 years reduced. And the government's given final approval for the Alderley Edge bypass. It was initially approved in 2001, but work's now finally getting underway next month. Manchester's weather, sunny spells, but the chance of thunder later. Highs of 22 Celsius.
BBC Radio Manchester, 2020 traffic.
We're just hearing of a multi-vehicle accident on the M66 southbound between junction 2 at Bury and 3 at Hollins. We're hearing it's a 2-lane stretch, and at the moment lane 1 has been closed, so only 1 lane remains open and slow-moving traffic at the moment in that lane. So do expect delays if you're heading that way southbound. Elsewhere, it's not looking too bad. Just having a look at our cameras on the M60, and everything looks fine around junction 24 at Denton Island. Into Sale, and some temporary lights are slowing things down on Carrington Lane, so expect delays around Manor Avenue. And on public transport, delays on Virgin trains have cleared. Normal service has now been resumed on trains bound for London. Anything else you spot, do give me a call on 0161 244 4951. I'm Chris Uni.
BBC Radio Manchester, Sports with Joanne Smith.
Good afternoon. Ricky Hatton has split with his long-time trainer, Billy Graham. The pair had worked together for 11 years, but as Ricky's dad, Ray Hatton, explains, their time together in the gym has taken its toll on Graham's hands.
It's common knowledge that Billy, for probably the last 12 months, 18 months, has been having injections in his hands before training sessions and things like that. And even though mentally it was a sharp attack, I think now at times you feel sorry for Billy at times because some of the agony he goes through with some of the pad sessions, because don't forget Billy's had some of the best fighters in the world, and it's the same thing, it's took his toll.
Graham's last fight with Hatton was a points victory over Juan Lascano back in May. Steve Hammerson has missed out on an England recall for the third test against South Africa, which gets underway tomorrow at Edgbaston. Stuart Broad has been dropped as Ryan Sidebottom and Paul Collingwood have been recalled into the team. Jonathan Agnew reports.
After a chastening week, England have reverted to their tried and tested formula, which was successful at least against New Zealand. Trouble is, South Africa are considerably a better team, and at Headingley, Ambrose looked out of place at number 6. Broad batted well there and has great promise, but after the marathon stint at Lord's, his bowling lacked bite. And with respect to Harmison, England have preferred 2 swing bowlers, with Flintoff adding the aggression. Vaughan laughed off talk about pressure on him, having made only 6 scores of 50 or more in 29 innings, but he, more than anyone, needs England to get back into the series here.
Rio Ferdinand remains confident he will be fully fit for the new season. Ferdinand has played just one game of Manchester United's pre-season due to a back injury. Wigan Athletic have extended the loan of Honduran Mena Figueroa for a further 6 months with a view to a permanent deal. The left-back joined the Latics from Deportivo Olimpia towards the end of last season. Wolves winger Elliot Bennett has returned to Bury on loan until January. The 19-year-old spent 3 months on loan at Gig Lane last season. Meanwhile, Macclesfield have appointed Sean Hesse as club captain for the new season. In tonight's action, Bolton travelled to Tranmere for a pre-season friendly. Oldham welcome Premier League new boys Hull. Stockport go to Macclesfield and Wigan are at Barnsley. Blackburn are in talks with Tottenham over the transfer of England midfielder David Bentley, although they insist no bid has been accepted. Meanwhile, Hull have signed defender Anthony Garner on loan from Spurs. Robbie Keane says he's realised his dream in joining Liverpool on a 4-year deal. He'll take the famous number 7 shirt worn by Anfield legends Dalglish and Keegan. 400-metre hurdler Rick Yates has told BBC Radio Manchester that he'll bounce back after failing to make the Beijing Olympics. The Trafford athlete has missed out on selection for Team GB despite running the qualifying time at the weekend after the squad was named.
It's given me a lot of motivation to train even harder next season, so it's in some ways it can be seen as a blessing in disguise. Obviously I would have wanted to go to the Olympics, but I'm just going to train a lot harder throughout the winter, and I'm only 22, so I'm not going to get any slower, and my technique's still got a lot of areas where I can improve it, so I just got to look to the future and the positives, really.
Manchester's Kate Walsh believes the disappointment of failing to qualify for the Olympics 4 years ago will be a huge motivation for Britain's women's hockey team in Beijing. Walsh, who captains the side, is at the Olympic training camp in Baku with the rest of the squad.
Just having those players that were there in 2004, just having a few of those in the squad, it sort of gives you that push, that extra push that you need to really try and succeed, because we don't ever want to be there again. That's the worst moment in all our careers, and they're just a really low point, and I think that's sort of given us a boost, and the young ones can thrive off that as well, and they play with no fear, which is nice, and I think that sort of gives the old ones a bit of a kick up the backside.
And the Rugby Football League are urging fans to buy tickets quickly for this year's Challenge Cup final between St Helens and Hull at Wembley, after seeing a massive demand already. Tickets go on general sale this Thursday for Saints fans.
Brand new drama on BBC Two.
I would only trust the happiness of my daughter to a man who owes me everything.
Saddam Hussein, husband and father.
The most important thing to my father is loyalty. At any cost.
And ruthless dictator.
He's a danger to all of us.
He does not forgive traitors.
The downfall of a dynasty. House of Saddam. New drama starts tomorrow night at 9 on BBC Two.
Manchester Airport have carried, or at least they don't carry them, do they? They're just the airport. But 200,000 fewer passengers have gone through the airport in the last financial year. But the company, the organisation, still managed to make £96 million profit. And apparently it's to do with the shops and the car parks. Well, think about it. They won't. Yes, exactly. You have to park now, even if you're just picking somebody up. So that's clever, isn't it? Very clever. Nice little earner. Well, you've got to live in the winter, even when you're in an airport. 0161 228 2255. Chris in St Helens. Hi, Chris.
All right, Matt, how we doing?
We're doing fine, thanks.
Good. Just a quickie, Alan. What's the criteria to get onto this British Olympics team? Because we've had Paula Ratcliffe, she's going there. She's got a broke leg. The doctors have told her she's no chance of running. Well, I've got a dodgy leg. I'd love to go up Beijing for a few weeks for a jolly and not do out. Well, I mean, and we've got a girl who was on the other week, and she said it'd be made up if she comes at top 25. Well, why are we going if we're just aiming for getting to top 25?
I've no idea. The Paula Ratcliffe story I know nothing about. The only thing I know about Paula Ratcliffe is she's skinny, can run a bit, and likes to wee in the street.
Well, all that's going to happen to her, Alan.
Yeah.
She's going to go on a jolly, isn't she? She's not going to run, or if she does run, she'll get a few hundred yards, start crying, and sit on
Then again, she might win.
Well, she's got a broke leg.
Well, if she's got any chance of running at all, then it's probably worth sending her, because if...
what's going to happen, Alan?
I don't know what's going to happen. I've yet to find a way of predicting the future.
No, but what's going to happen? She's going to get out there, she's going to have a bit of a jolly, and then she'll be doing a bit of commentary. But they'll all learn now, saying, oh, well, I've run the speed I've got to be, I'm in the team. But who sets these targets for... Because we're top and bottom, we're bloody rubbish, aren't we? We're rubbish at what we do. And when we go to these Olympics, we come back with a couple of bronze medals, and half of them are at rowing.
What are you suggesting, then? I mean, frankly, if we sent no one to the Olympics, I'd be fine with that.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. If you're not good enough to go anywhere, it's all right saying, oh, we've got to go, we've got to compete. But if you're not good enough to compete, why go in the first place?
But that's the reason for shutting down every football club in Britain bar about 3. Wouldn't be much of a league.
No, they're a business, aren't they?
Well, so's the Olympics now, sadly.
No, but if you support I support Man City, so I can't say nothing to anybody.
No, I mean, why bother?
No.
Why bother having Manchester City? They've never won sod all. Well, I say never. The 60s, I think, passed us by, and the blokes that are probably long since dead managed to kick a few things, but why not just get rid of them?
That's a business, that's entertainment, isn't it?
Well, Paula Radcliffe's a business. She probably turns over more in a year than you will in your life.
I know, that's what I'm saying, but that's why she's going. I think that's why she's going, because it's Paula Radcliffe PLC.
Yeah, well, I've not worked. Well, it's not PLC, but it's Paula Radcliffe, the company.
Yes.
But I've not worked out.
Get a name in.
Yeah, I don't understand. You seem to say that. You seem to be saying that Manchester City should still get to take part in the Premiership, despite the fact that they are utter crap. Paula Radcliffe, who's the best long-distance female runner in the world, shouldn't go, because she might not end up running because she's got a bad leg. The logic you're applying to the two different things is questionable.
Not run, right, she's not run this year because she's got a stress fracture in her leg. Her consultant has told her she's no chance of competing. But she's still going.
But she might have a chance. Who would you send instead? Some numpty? Probably Manchester City's goalkeeper. Oh no, he's going to be really busy next year. Perhaps their striker. Send the striker. He'll have sod all do all year. Send him.
But you missed the point.
I got the point. Couldn't see the sense of it, but I got it.
No, but
it's just a game. It's just a game.
But all these athletes who are going there, they're all getting money off from the lottery and from work, aren't they?
Yeah.
And they're not good enough to compete with the best in the world.
Well, they are good enough to compete. They might not be good enough to win, if we're going to be picky.
Yeah, they're not good enough to win.
No. Well, is that the only reason ever for going?
No, but what I'm saying is...
Whatever happened to the idea, the Olympian spirit of it's worth taking part?
Well, that went a long time ago when they started handing money over.
Well, just imagine, and I'm not wishing this on anybody, but just imagine, we get there, and the person who's expected to come about 8th and would be dead chuffed if she came 6th, she gets there, and she comes 6th. Well, A, she's going to be elated, and B, she's going to have the experience, which might help her in the next one. But imagine how stupid we'll feel if we get there, and we haven't got the woman who's likely to come 7th, and the 6 that are meant to beat her all get food poisoning the day before and can't run. She'd have got a gold medal.
Right, but it's the way they're building everything up, all Great Britain athletics, this and this. And you know what's going to happen. We're going to come away with a couple of bronzes, a silver if we're lucky, and then everybody will be wringing their hands after the Olympics saying, "Oh, we weren't good enough." Blah blah blah. We need some more money pumped into grassroots.
Okay, well that's fair enough, and I'm with it all the way. And it's a great logic, and I hope we apply it to the Premiership, and then we can stop doing all that rubbish about Eastlands. Good on you, mate. Walter in Prestwich. Hiya.
Hiya. Talking about the Home Guard, my dad had an horrendous experience whilst he was in the Home Guard. in the summer of 1943, they had the invasion of Manchester, and the Home Guard had to defend against units of the army.
All right, this was an exercise. It was,
Yeah, big exercise.
I thought I hadn't heard about the invasion. Blimey, that's passed me by. Go on.
Anyway, my father and another old chap, they were sent to the Swan with Two Necks in Withy Grove.
All right.
And,
Because the Germans were bound to come that way.
Anyway,
the Swan with Two Necks and the signpost. We will go that way.
It was full of army men that had been captured and taken prisoner.
Yeah, right.
And Alf was at one end, and my dad was Alf was at one entrance, and my dad was at the other, and it was the cellar. It was the cellar, you see, of the pub. And all of a sudden, my dad was faced with a crowd of fellas, going at him.
Yeah.
And he's an old soldier of the 1418 war. He put his gun in the on-guard position, but he'd got a bayonet on the end.
Aye.
And one of the fellas ran onto the bayonet.
Oh, dear.
And, of course, he finished up in Withington Hospital. And when I came home that night, there wasn't a word spoken in our house. My dad was so upset.
I'll bet he was.
Anyway...
it's just as well he hadn't brassoed it, or he'd been in serious trouble. That was a...
Anyway, there was a big inquiry around this fella's bed, and he was an officer in one of the Scottish regiments. And there was a big inquiry around it, and apparently my dad and Alf were the only two men in the whole of the Home Guard that had been told to fix bayonets that day. Nobody else had been told. So it went on for months and months, and every night when I came home, I had to go to the local phone box and find out how this fellow was going on.
Good Lord!
Because it was really a worrying time. But gradually, my father had never used a phone in his life, believe it or not. Anyway, he gradually pulled round, and he got better, and he came to our house with his wife to tea one night. But I was in the army myself by then. But to finish on a funny note, we also had two Army Pay Corps men billeted with us at that period, and they were, of course, the enemy. They were Germans. They were taking place of Germans. And one of them came home drenched to the skin at 5 o'clock in the morning. My mother got up and, what's the matter? Oh, he said, I was in Grey Street in Hardwick, he said, and me and some others were crawling along the walls of the terraced houses there, and a window jumps up, window's open, and a woman says, what are you? Are you British or German? So he said, I said, we were German. He said, next thing is we got about 4 or 5 bloody buckets of water thrown at us.
Excellent. What a great tale.
Yeah, that's it. Okay, then.
Good on you. Thank you very much indeed. The Home Guard and protecting Manchester against the invasion with buckets of water. I'm sure they were terrified, the Germans. John in Levenshulme. Hiya, John.
I'd just like to inform you, Mr. Beswick, this team who are utter crap.
It wasn't me, it was Chris that said that.
Your words was utter crap.
I was just quoting Chris.
There's none of them dead, they're all still alive, so you're way
you mean
the
old ones from yesteryear, the Franny Lees and all that?
1960s. You know the only good thing about today's programme, you know when you got done in... when you got
France.
Dropped on your pants.
Yeah.
I always thought them wishing wells was a waste of money, you know. Bye.
That's like when I hurt my ankle. And I was a member of the Y in those days, the Y Club, and I went to the Y Club in the morning with a bit of a limp. And I said, what sort of sort of twisted my ankle? And Harry said, oh, I can take the pin out of that doll now. Can't. The miserable swine. Anyway, there you go. 0161228 2255 to book a call for tomorrow. Fat Tony says, substitute fat for red-headed people. Not so funny now, is it? Well, yeah, right. Yeah, substitute it. Red-headed people are not allowed in nightclubs. Not going to change my life. Yeah, and anyway, I'm red-headed, I'm fat, so I've got you covered. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with red hair. In fact, I know people who pay good money to have their hair readied up. No, I'm not one of them, but there you are. Anyway, who cares? Yeah, quite. Nobody cares, and even fewer know. And I don't know, I've got time to read this. Wendy said, I'm not surprised, re the lost passport items. I had 3 of the old navy blue and gold ones of relatives now deceased. Told on the phone by the Liverpool Passport Office to bin them, even though I pointed out their value for nefarious purposes. I cut them into small pieces in the end. My sister and I were evacuated from Gorse Hill Primary School in 1939, and then the school was closed. We came back 2 weeks later and were offered 1 hour's tuition per day, although not in the school building. Shortly after my family moved to Sale. Does any listener know for how long Gorse Hill School remained closed, please? And then she says, I'm involved in changing my phone service provider, and one of the questions they required was my date of birth. I objected this and was told that it's for security purposes. The simple answer is yes, it is. That's what they want the information for, because mobile phone service providers provide credit, and to provide credit they've got to prove you're not from or you've not come in on John's lorry that we were talking to earlier. See you tomorrow. Ta-ra now.